I'm Peter Clowes. I live on this road. I was a coal merchant. I delivered coal to this property many years ago, and I got to knew the family because they were farmers, we were farmers and coal merchants, and we used to work for them, do work carting the hay.
And the name of the family?
Freckingham.
Freckingham?
Yes. The family here was Carter, but Miss Carter married Frank Freckingham, who were the local butchers in Long Street, and they're the farmers where Little Estate is now, right down to the Raleigh Bridge and whatnot. And we used to do the hay making for them with our lorries. When the hay was baled, and previous to that, when it was loose, and we used to go over the Humpback Bridge, over the railway crossing, level crossing, over the canal bridge, load up the bale and hay and whatnot, and bring it back. And 9 times out of 10, when we were coming back over the canal bridge, it all slipped off the back and we had to reload it again. But that was a way of life we used to do.
So the family that actually bought this property or lived in this property was the Carters?
Yes.
And it was Miss Carter?
Miss Carter, who stopped here, she was the last one here. There were 2 sisters lived here. She took ill and went down to live with her younger sister. This then became empty. And then 1982, I believe it was, a decision was made that it would be sold to the council and become a museum. Because everything was original.
Can I ask you then, Peter, that was it the Carters that lived here that set up the machine, or was it already here? Was it a working company then?
The family lived in the house, the boys and the men worked in here, and the ladies worked upstairs grafting the socks, which means closing the toe, you know.
And how many would have worked here, Peter?
10 people, something like that,
yes.
I should imagine.
Yes. And they would have worked for Mr. Carter?
For Mr. Carter, yes.
And he would have produced how many socks? Would you know that?
No, not exactly.
Right. So when this small factory began, then are we talking late 18th century or 19th century? Is that what we're talking about? So the Carters would have been involved since then, would they?
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Initially, you see, on the site where the yarn room is now was a wooden building. Within the bottom quarter were 4 frames.
But men would have arrived here at what time? 6 o'clock in the morning to work?
Well, if work was available, it was done till dusk.
Right.
You know, I mean, not rigidly that way, but if work was available, you did it. Otherwise, somebody else would do it.
Right.
You know, it was a cutthroat business. Everybody was at Wigston was a mammoth place for the hosiery industry, and it still is to a degree.
But the Carters would have been quite entrepreneurs in the day, because the kind of work that we're looking at would have been done in someone's home, and all of a sudden he's brought 12 people together, 10 people together.
Well, I always say element of fiddling crept in. See, if this was in your living room or your kitchen frame, you could purl in a bit of yarn and make a pair of socks for yourself or sell them on the side, you see. So I think the master hosier, like Mr. Carter, would bring the frames into it, had this place built, brought the frames in there, and he got control over the workforce, you see. If there was no orders out, if they got work, they were in work.
Yes.
You know, it was very cutthroat business in those days.
And they would have worked a 6-day week, Peter?
6-day week, yes.
6-day week.
Yeah. And I always used to come in with the coal. I get presented the bill, she'd give me £0.50 tip and a cup of tea. Now, that was a lot of money in those days. I mean, the coal was only about 15 shillings, something. And when my son started to work for me, she stopped my 5-bob tip or whatever it was, you see, and didn't give him anything. So they economised by cutting down.
So if we go back to the beginning of the museum, Peter, it was the sister passed away, leaving this property to be pulled down, to be derelict, to be sold on, and it was you yourself that stopped it, or
No,
somebody suggested?
I didn't stop it. It was a group of us got together and thought it was worth preserving. We tried to raise the asking price, and we couldn't do it. So we went to Wigston Borough Council and pointed out to them, and they purchased it and leased it back to us, the trustees, to peppercorn rent, which was a pair of socks, which I knitted on the Griswold.
How do you see the future of the museum now? Do you think you've actually now put the base in, and it's gone beyond that base now, isn't it? It really is a wonderful place to come and visit.
I do not want it to change one iota. I think this is the beauty of this. It is all original. It is all genuine.
Peter, we're now in the upstairs workshop, and what we can see around us, we're surrounded with, is it Griswold?
Griswold.
And they would have been set up individually. I can see that they're all on a bench here at the moment, but they would be individual machines work by one man, or would one man work several of these machines?
Mainly ladies working these Griswolds right here. The men would be working the frames down.
Does the Griswold make part of the sock or the whole of the sock?
You can make the whole of the sock on that. Whereas you want 3 frames to do a glove or socks sort of thing. See, there on this side one, blue one, there's a length of the leg of the stock in there.
Yes.
And then you turn the heel on, it's a complicated procedure, on the front half of the needles, depressing the needle on each side or lifting it up depending whether you're increasing or decreasing.
How long would it take to make one sock?
It took me 2.5 years to crack it.
Right.
And then when I was what I call proficient, the quickest I did a sock was 2.5 hours. And then there was no point in rushing because, you know, there was no sale for them, only as mementos, and that's what I used to do. And I used to make little miniature socks, they've all gone now, knitting, and then sew them up the back sort of thing. But you could vary the length of the foot and the length of the leg by counting so many revolutions. There's a little counter on some of these, and so many revolutions. Then you reverse it, you see. It's a little ingenious. That to replace those big frames.
The socks that were made, Peter, what kind of people would buy those socks? Are we talking the whole of society, or are we talking children, working men, working girls?
The whole of the society. They would load it up. You've got an awesome cart, a float, you know, a high-sided cart sort of thing, with seats round. And he used to take his socks and whatever he made from it down to the wholesale market, and it would be sold down there wholesale. He got a good reputation and people would come here to buy the socks.
And they would have sold directly from the front door?
Yeah, that was the front shop.
Yes.
The goods were laid out on the counter on there, IDs and others, when they wanted to sell anything. You see.
So would that be the position of the 2 Miss Carters? Would they have been selling the socks?
Pre them, it would. They would be there, but the father, he would do most of the selling from there, and the mother.
So this particular place would have been a big industrial place, would it? As the village would have been then, Wigston Magna, this would have been a good place to work.
I mean, still, there's quite a few of these workshops about in Wigston.
Right.
If you go up by Fisher's Garage,
yes,
there on the left-hand side, they were frame shops, ground floor, first floor. Leicester Road, there's some up there. They were everywhere, these little workshops, but this was the one which lasted the longest.
Yes.
So far as I know, there's always somebody going to say, well, this lasted longer than yours. But this, the beauty of this, it was left as it was at the age shut down.
And that's interesting, Peter, isn't it? The fact that you were able to come in here,
Yeah.
open the door and find it as it was.
Well, yeah. Well, you see, when the last lady who lived here died, the one who married, she came up with the key and says, you better have a look round, because then it was decided to sell it to the council and the trust would run it. Well, I was, what was I? Curator, as the so called it. So I was privileged to have a look round before it was changed hands, and I made sure everything was left